We haven't talked Jaire since you left, and the first day you're back, we're talking Jaire.
Yeah.
You're gonna love this, man. So nothing has really changed him until today. I guess there's a couple little details that came down the pike. Let's just dive into it real quick. I put an article together based off the information I gathered from Matt Schneidman and Jason Wilde earlier today, and just titled it "Jaire Alexander's future with the Green Bay Packers remains uncertain as contract talks continue." So here's what we got. All right. A significant development has emerged in the ongoing offseason saga surrounding Jaire Alexander, though his contract status with the Green Bay Packers remains unresolved. According to a source with knowledge of the situation, as reported by Matt Schneidman of The Athletic, the Packers have proposed a restructured contract to Alexander, signaling their interest in retaining the two-time All-Pro cornerback. The moves come after an offseason in which the team has been open to trading the 28-year-old, who has 2 years left on a record-setting 2022 contract extension worth $21 million annually. However, Alexander and his agent John Thornton of Rock Nation have yet to agree to the proposed restructuring. Alexander has expressed a desire to remain in Green Bay, but his participation in team activities could become complicated. He plans to attend the Packers' mandatory minicamp in June, and I heard Wilde say maybe even earlier, okay? But without a restructured contract, there's a possibility the team may not allow him to participate in team drills. The Packers are cautious about the risk of injury, which could guarantee Alexander's salary for the season if he were to get hurt. Matt Schneidman reported earlier today that he does not anticipate Alexander practicing without a new deal in place, but did not mention the reason for that would be the Packers protecting themselves, not Jaire. So that final piece there, I kind of put the two and two together based off of the contractual talks and obligations the Packers have with Jaire. If he gets hurt, it sounds like the salary portion of that's going to be fully guaranteed if he gets hurt while in the facility. So what you've got here is a little, I don't want to say cat and mouse, but it's complicated. The Packers want him back for the right price, right? And what they want to do is adjust that contract to where if he isn't on the field, if he isn't healthy, they're going to recoup a good chunk of that money back, right? So here's what we come down with, all right? As negotiations continue, two pieces of the puzzle have been confirmed. The Packers have now offered Jaire a restructured contract expected to be more team friendly. Now, last we heard that had not taken place. The Packers said they hadn't offered it. Jaire's camp had confirmed they had not offered it, according to Rob Demovsky. And the second piece of this is Alexander has not signed that restructure, but does want to remain in Green Bay, according to Matt Schneidman. But I mean, and I don't know if Matt Schneidman got that directly from his camp, but that's what his article said. All right. However, if he refuses to sign the restructure, that could force the Packers to release him. All right. So let me paint a picture for you here. He's saying, I don't want my contract restructured. Right? I want to play on the contract that I've got. Okay, the Packers are going, we don't want you at that contract because we want to be able to get some of that money back if indeed you're not on the field. And there's been some muddy water over the last few years on how these contracts, and I'm sure there's fine detail and it's different in every contract that's signed. You know, in most cases, the base salary isn't guaranteed if you get hurt. You got to pay a portion of that back, right? Well, in this case, according to Jason Wilde and Mark Tauscher, who was a former player rep, it is guaranteed if he gets hurt. So you've got Alexander going, I'm just going to show up. Guys, they can't prevent him from showing up. Now, they can prevent him from participating in activities and they still pay him his bonus. But they can't tell him, hey, you're under contract, but you're not allowed to come here. That's against the CBA. So and some fans are trying to look at this like, yeah, Jaire wants to be a Packer. He wants to get back in there and get to work. Really, in all honesty, what's probably happening is Jaire's going, hey, guys, you're going to have to make a decision sooner or later. And he's kind of forcing their hand a little bit. That's what it feels like to me on the latter. So if he comes into camp and they say, no, you're not participating, it's basically going to be is him doing what they call a hold in, right? But what's weird is it's not him holding in. It's the Packers holding in, if that makes sense. So I just want to say this, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you guys. There's a lot of fans out there that get mad at players when they do hold-ins. Are you going to get mad at the team for doing a similar thing? Because it needs to be fair both ways. And that's why when it comes to these contract negotiations, these contract rebuttals, I guess is the right way of putting it, it can get a little choppy. And that's why I try to look at both sides. I don't try to be just player friendly. I don't try to be just team friendly. I can understand both sides of this. And Jaire may use that showing up as a little bit of leverage to try to get that deal sweetened a little bit more than the current offer that they've provided him. If he comes in and says, I'm not touching his contract, and they say, okay, stay away, stay away, stay away. Guess what? Sooner or later, they got to make the decision to just cut him outright. And I think that's honestly what Jaire wants outside of playing under the new contract. His first choice, I think, is he wants to play under the current contract. And if they're not willing to do that, then he wants to be released. That's kind of what it feels like to me. That's me, the dumb redneck fan, reading between the lines. Jacob, you have the floor, sir. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird situation, double-edged sword type of situation where like you said, I think it's clear that Ja wants to play. I think he's realized that maybe his market value wasn't quite what he thought it was, when he started testing these waters. I think that two things can be true at once. I think that the Packers front office probably could have handled this a tad bit better. I definitely think Jaire's team could have handled this a tad bit better. And like you said, now he has the proverbial water, what, to someone's head saying, you guys want me back? All right, I'm coming back. And then the front office is saying, hey, hold up, bub, hold up. If you were to come in here, and I don't think that Ja would do this, but Ja comes back and goes, oh no, I got my turf toe. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you'll have to pay me all that guaranteed money. Obviously with the doctors and the way that the medical field works, I don't know if you could necessarily
be that easy, right?
Get to fake an injury. It's not like staying home from school. So it is a weird situation.
On that note, Jacob, not to cut you off, but on that note, if he were to do something like that, and again, we're not saying Ja would do that, but if he were to do something like that, the team could determine, the doctors could determine, hey, he's not really hurt, and now it becomes conduct detrimental to the team, which voids that conduct.
I was just going to say, I think that they could find that basically null and void that contract. COVID toe. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We saw it for sure. I want him back. I think our team's going to be much better just with the way that I'm so excited about some of the young talent, some of the pieces we have in that secondary specifically, even without Ja, which again, I don't want, but without Ja, I think that we still have a pretty good solid cornerback room. With Ja, boy, we could have ourselves something special. We really could. And that's where I'm starting to just, and obviously we know Tim's stance. He ain't skipped a beat basically. I would, and I used to push back, you know what I mean, a little bit because I just didn't like the drama. I didn't like the look it did for 1265. But now all things being considered, I want Ja back, man. I'm ready to give him that money. What I would suggest is there any way to restructure and again, just be an incentive-based contract?
That's what the Packers are trying to do, but Ja doesn't want to do that. And rightfully so.
And I don't blame him.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Tim, sir, I know you've waited weeks to talk about this topic, so you have before.
I'm gonna just play devil's advocate here, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm gonna reiterate a point that you've made once or twice on this show, Clayton. Usually when 1265 makes an offer, that's their offer. There isn't a follow-up or a back and forth. Here's what we're offering, right?
Yeah.
So if Ja doesn't sign this restructured deal here in Green Bay and tries to quote unquote force the hand and make them cut him, Ja's going to end up playing on a restructured deal somewhere else.
Right.
Either way. So
exactly. I think Holmes said right here, Tim. It's exactly what Holmes said. I think Ja is silly to turn down the offer. He's not going to get more on the market, in my opinion.
And we don't know the specifics, but I'm assuming whatever was offered is probably significantly less, but not as significantly less as what he might get, going to another team on the market. So I think I'm just going to hold out to hope and think positive and think that maybe Ja and his representation just needs some time to digest the restructured details of the proposal, and maybe we get news that breaks that Ja just signs the deal and we put all this to bed and go after Lombardi, man.
When this first broke today, Tim, that's what I was hoping was happening. And to see everybody's reaction on Twitter, I felt I got duped right into it. I'm like, yeah, there we go. We're there now. We're there. He's going to, and I thought the same thing you thought, Jacob, like this DB room going to be sick. This is awesome, especially if Ja's healthy, right? But then got a little later into the day and I read the article myself and then I heard Wildy's reaction to it as well. And I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing this exactly how Wildy's seeing it. Like this feels more of a Ja trying to push the envelope a little bit. Like, all right, yeah, I'm coming to minicamp. You know what it reminded me of? And I had a horrible, horrible flashback. Remember when Brett Favre showed up at family night that year? Everybody's like, "Oh crap, he's in the building."
Yeah.
And it was stormy over Lambeau Field and everything. It was just the perfect setting. You see him getting off the plane, and oh man,
You could see the look on AR-12's face when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I would never forget fans booing Aaron Rodgers in that family night too. I was just like, "What are we doing?"
That was a rough look.
It was a bad look, very bad look. But again, man, hey, everybody fan how you want to fan. You know, it is what it is. And I would say I was on the organization side during that. I still am. You know, I think they made the right move there. Obviously, looking back, they made the right move. I think we would all agree going to Aaron away from Brett. But at the time, we not even knowing how good Aaron was going to be, I agreed with the team because he changed his mind 3 times at one offseason. You know,
yeah. I was just going to say that it's not the same situation, obviously, but you get into a point where it's, am I coming back? Am I not coming back? It's like Packer fans are just, we're not really into that anymore, man. We've been callous to that type of behavior. So I'd understand.
Yeah, people out there working on the farm, working in the boat yard. They're,
working on a pole.
Yeah, exactly, Jacob, doing real work over there at the office. And then you're going to look up and go, all right, this guy really going to buck this bad here and wishy-washy back and forth. I get it. Completely get it. So anyway, I hope he's back. And as a Packer fan, selfishly, I hope he's back on a restructured deal too, because their only complaint with Jaire the last few years is he just couldn't stay healthy. And if that deal does get reworked, the cap hit isn't going to be near as bad if he doesn't stay healthy. You want him to be there on the field for all 17 games, right? Or 16 games, however many you're playing. Like you want him on the field every single snap. But if he's not on the field, obviously you want to recoup as much of that cap as you can. So, all right. Anything else on that, boys? We feel good about it?
I don't know if feeling good's the word, but yeah.
Things could be a lot worse. I could be a Bears fan.
There you go. All right, let's get into the second topic of the night here.